I think the president is sound to try other statutes. And I think the narratives about the court not being independent and the president not obeying the court were totally blown up today.
That was a very charitable explanation of what took place today, Scott. You should be paid a lot of money from the Trump administration for helping to...
I get paid a lot of money here.
Shout out to Scott, actually, for making that comment. By the way, guys, if you like the clip, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. Let me be clear. Whatever Scott said, he actually did present it very well. I will give it to him. Even if Scott was wrong, this guy right here, I never know his name. He's going to make Scott look good. You know, I just keep it real on what happens on the CNN panel. This guy's going to make Scott look good because he's just the worst. He's always crying about racism. So let's go ahead and watch
this case. Here's what he says he wants to see.
They know exactly what they took from us, when and why and how much, and they can just reverse the gears and send it back to us. It's our money. They took it unlawfully. They have to return it. And I'm not crying for them that they find it inconvenient.
They said they spent $10 million paying Trump's tariffs that we now know are illegal. And on top of that, just to circle back to what we were talking about, the CBO, this is one of many reports on this, but the CBO just recently said U.S. businesses will absorb 30% of the import price increases, reducing their profit margin. The remaining 70% will be passed through to consumers by raising prices. So the net effect of the tariffs will be to raise consumer prices by the full portion of the cost of the tariffs borne domestically, 95%. So look, at the end of the day, he's a business owner. You can't tell him he didn't bear the cost of tariffs. He wrote the check.
Well, which is it?
So this is true because business owners have bore the check for the tariffs, and now there's a Supreme Court saying that Trump's tariffs, decision saying that Trump's tariffs are illegal. I personally think that he expected to get that decision dropped down, and he's moved on to other things such as war with Iran. But in this clip, we're going to watch Scott Jennings and Abby Phillips in the rest of Newsnight with Abby Phillips on CNN go hard and ham on this discussion of the tariffs, if they're legal, or what's going on. I mean, it's just a big show to me. It really is. I don't know what has happened in this last year of this administration, but it is what it is. Let's get into this big hoorah on Newsnight with Abby Phillips on CNN with Scott Jennings and Abby Phillips going off about tariffs, Trump's policies. And it's with CNN, I'm not sure with the information because Scott Jennings is just going to back Trump regardless.
You said all of it was passed through the consumers. You said that most of it was absorbed by some of the companies. It sounds like maybe it might be a little bit of both. I mean, how do you refund this? I have no idea. I mean, this is a total mess. You're talking about massive amount of money.
How did they charge it?
And
they can refund what they charged.
I guess, but if you want to go into the Treasury and start writing checks on this, it feels, and the court acknowledged that it feels like it's going to be a bit of a mess. I assume, Ellie, there'll be massive amount of litigation about this over the next couple of years. I will just say, politically today, it was a big breaking news day, but I just think we ought to acknowledge something. This is a properly functioning government today. The President of the United States, the head of the executive branch, made a policy decision. The Supreme Court, that renders legal opinions about these kinds of decisions, made a decision. They said you can't do that. The President of the United States said, okay, I agree, and I will acknowledge your decision. I am going to use a different statute to try to do what I want to do. This is properly functioning government. And I'll tell you one more thing. For every Democrat and every media person that has gone on for the last year or two about how this Supreme Court is a wholly owned subsidiary of Donald Trump, that it's not independent, that it does whatever he says to do, obviously that narrative was obliterated today. So to me, I thought the ruling was sound. I think the president is sound to try other statutes. And I think the narratives about the court not being independent and the president not obeying the court were totally blown up today.
That was a very charitable explanation of what took place today, Scott. You should be paid a lot of money from the Trump administration for helping to...
I get paid a lot of money here.
Shout out to Scott, actually, for making that comment. By the way, guys, if you like the clip, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. Let me be clear. Whatever Scott said, he actually did present it very well. I will give it to him. Even if Scott was wrong, this guy right here, I never know his name. He's going to make Scott look good. I just keep it real on what happens on the CNN panel. this guy's going to make Scott look good because he's just the worst. He's always crying about racism. So let's go ahead and watch this guy make Scott Jennings on Newsnight with Abby Phillip, CNN, look good.
I know you
Just to
do,
be clear.
and in other places too. But you should be paid by the Trump administration for what you said, because the reality is that the president didn't just accept the ruling like you said he did.
Yes, he did.
He got up
He
there.
acknowledged it, he accepted
He
it.
got up there at in the press conference today, and he attacked the U.S. Supreme Court justices. He said that they should be embarrassed for their families for making a decision that stood up to him. He attacked them and said they were disloyal and unpatriotic. He said they were disloyal to the Constitution. Even that's more than disagreement. That's irresponsible rhetoric. And the problem is, Scott, even though today the Supreme Court did the right thing, according to everyone here at the table, apparently, except maybe you, Anthony, the truth is that this is the first major decision where they have actually disagreed with the president on any of his priorities. So yes, they got one right, but that doesn't negate everything else that they've done. Donald Trump doesn't like to govern. Donald Trump likes to rule by decree, and the Supreme Court finally stood in and said you can't do that on this one issue.
Quick, if I could. I mean, the reason there's not national.
It's gonna have to actually cut. So the black guy again is like, oh well, they didn't do the right thing because they usually agree with him. What does that mean? Like, what does that even mean? He's always making these ridiculous arguments. Donald Trump likes to rule by decree. Like, none of these people. It just makes me sick. It's just his argument is pointless. To be honest, I don't know why there's a Supreme Court ruling over tariffs when this didn't happen the first time. Trump did issue tariffs in his first term. The country used to work based off of tariffs. I guess I have to look into the case just a little bit more, but I don't understand what the issue is here that the Supreme Court needed to get involved with this. I will say, as critical as I am of this administration, and believe me, I am, I don't understand why the Supreme Court had to rule on the tariffs. Like, who brought up the case and what was it about exactly? I guess I'd have to look into that.
Guard on the streets in Chicago right now, as the Supreme Court blocked that too. And I think Trump's about to go on a bit of a losing streak with the court. I mean, between today, he's going to lose birthright, I believe, birthright citizenship eventually. I also think he's going to lose his effort to fire Lisa Cook off the Fed. So I think, to Scott's point, I think the narrative that the Supreme Court is automatically in Trump's pocket and always has been, I think it is overblown. And I think they're disproving that now and will continue over the next several months.
Yeah, it's interesting because they do push the envelope on this stuff, and they could easily have, to your point, I mean, there are all kinds of different statutory authorities for the president to do all kinds of different things, and he's going to use some of them now. And they could have tried to do it that way. I don't know. Do you have a theory? I have a theory, but I'm curious if you have a theory about why the Trump administration decided to do it this particular way.
Yeah, I have a bit of a theory, which is that of all of the trade authorities that exist to support the president's agenda, this is the one that has the least set of requirements attached to it. It is the one where, with a stroke of a pen on any particular day, and in fact, we've seen it on 60 days so far in this Trump administration, you are able to change tariff rates because you see a commercial you don't like, or your adversary or ally does something that you don't agree with. And I think the challenge with all of these other approaches, some of which would actually require the president to go to Congress and try to legislate the trade agenda, as has always been done historically, don't afford you that same flexibility. And I think that flexibility might sound like it's attractive, but actually, Scott, to your point, I think today you did see government function and our institutions function the way they're supposed to. But something that you also saw was the reintroduction of incredible volatility into our trade policy. What are businesses supposed to be planning for? What is the tariff rate likely to be next week, next month, 6 months from now? How do consumers plan for that? And how do our allies think about us in negotiations when it's not at all clear what authorities or the extent to which they're legally viable pathways to effectuate some of these policies?
I think the last point you made is one of the most important for how the president moves forward here. Because if you talk to him about this, beyond just the economics, he believes these tariffs and the ability for him to unilaterally do it is his biggest diplomatic tool. He thinks that it's been huge in trade negotiations. He thinks it's helped him solve some of these peace agreements. He thinks it gives the American president, in any room that that person is in, this massive cudgel against other countries to extract outcomes that we want on a number of fronts. So I think the last point you made is very true.
And he's wrong about that.
Why is he wrong about
Chief
it?
Justice Roberts said this: the president asserts the extraordinary power to unilaterally impose tariffs of unlimited amount, duration, and scope. In light of the breadth, history, and constitutional context of that asserted authority, he must identify clear congressional authorization to exercise it. He's pretty crystal clear. That's the scope. There's a reason that, according to Chief Justice Gorsuch and 6 other Supreme Court justices, Congress does not give that power to the president. And it has to do with the fact that, as we just discussed, tariffs, like taxes, cost people money. Money comes out of their pockets and goes to the Treasury. And that is a power that belongs to Congress. And if Congress, which is, controlled by the president's party, supports the president's agenda, and if these tariffs are so popular and such a key to economic prosperity, 2 questions. Why are they so unpopular? Why do Americans say, 56% say they hurt the economy, and why won't Congress just codify them?
So what I would say that, first of all, Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution gives the president the right to work on international affairs, manage international affairs, and trade. Period. Hard stop. He has the right to implement tariffs. That's not the question here. The question is IEPA. To loop back to...
Okay, this guy needs to calm down because he's right. This is what I've been sitting back here thinking. Anthony Esposito is right. No matter how people feel about the administration, you don't have to like Trump, but he's right. So this one taking his big inhale to say something ridiculously emotional out of his mouth is annoying to watch. Anthony is right.
The benefits that we've seen...
Did you hear anything that I just read?
I did, but it's actually
listen,
not accurate.
I understand what you're saying.
They did just rule on the narrow statute, though.
Just a second. I understand the context of what you're saying in that they're ruling on IEPA. Mm-hmm. But what Chief Justice Roberts is saying is that what Trump is asserting is that using national security as a justification to impose tariffs of any size, scope, and duration is not constitutional. He says that very clearly here.
That is IEPA. That's fine.
Okay. So we're in agreement on that. The president has limited authorities that are delegated by Congress to impose trade restrictions under certain circumstances, under other statutes, but it is not broad, it is not unlimited, and it is not forever. Correct?
No, that's actually not correct. He has congressional authority to issue and implement tariffs under Section 122.
Under limited
They each have their own limits
scope that is delegated by Congress. That is the only
Section
point that I'm making.
232, for example, gives him the ability to put tariffs at 50% across the board.
The only point that I'm making is that Congress determines what powers he has in those
They've
realms.
already determined that as well.
Anthony, you're making the argument that might have been okay yesterday, but today it lost, so it's not the law anymore.
He's saying that there's statutes that already exist.
Oh, I know.
The president's going to pivot to
Which
other
is fine.
statutory authority.
Yes.
Now, if he
Abby's
does
right, those
that,
are narrow.
maybe somebody ends up challenging that, and they are
let me
different
make-
scope
let me-
because the statutes already
You have
exist.
to actually meet the requirements of those statutes.
Right.
He can't just say, I want 50% tariffs on the whole world. I'm just going to put it under this statute. If he could have done that, he would have done it. But he didn't. Those statutes are narrow. He has to meet certain requirements, and those requirements are dictated by Congress, not by the president.
Think about it.
Actually, no. All right, let me see if Anthony will finish off strongly.
Right,
So
think about it this way.
that's the only point.
IEPA, the law that he tried to use today, would have been a sledgehammer for him to put in tariffs. Instead, that's been taken away, and now he's going to have to use a ball peen hammer instead. The statutes that are left for him are much more restrictive. Still painful and still effective, but much more fine, much more limited in their statutes.
But here's the thing. Man. Oh, so annoying. Fucking come on.
This is...
But here's the thing, like all of this, first off, Abby Phillips really needs to stop cutting people off and trying to act like, the whole, did you hear anything I just read? Yes, he did, okay? The ruling that was given by the Supreme Court Justice, yes, okay, they're saying that he has to basically get authorization from Congress, which he does have statutes that have authorization from Congress. And so now he'll move on to to make decisions based on those statutes. It's like, listen, there's going to be obstacles So, and I'm just explaining this in general, whether I agree with it or not, right? We cannot let our emotions get to the best of us where it's like, oh, but I don't like anything this administration does, so no, he doesn't have the right. No. We let us be adults, okay? So now that they've said that, okay, cool. We've this obstacle happened. I'm pissed off. By the way, he had every right to react however he wanted to about it, okay? Oh, he got mad. Okay, he got mad. What the hell? Anyway, now we're going to move on to this statute. We're going to move on to this step to get this thing done. And if he has to, he has the right to declare some sort of state of emergency where, as he knows, because Abby said, he can't do this, and just say it's like for national security. No, technically he can. The Supreme Court justice is not privy to classified information to say what is at risk of our national security of the country, the stuff that Trump knows as a president. Okay, now I'm talking about a country that actually works appropriately, not a banana republic like we live under right now. Okay, and yes, we do. But what I'm saying is that they don't know. They don't know what kind of threats we may have, and maybe we need to impose these kind of tariffs to stop these kind of trades, to stop some sort of infiltration coming in from, another country or something. Okay, there's ways where he could do this. There's plenty of other avenues actually that he can take, that he can do this. And don't forget that he's already been given immunity from the last time he was president, where they say, like, whatever he does as president, it is because he's president. He's making decisions. It's like a unitarian type of like authority that he does have. We can change this thing into a monarchy if we really wanted to. Now, my issue with that, okay, and I'll end with this, while people are saying what he can and cannot do. No, he certainly can do it. My issue with changing this thing into a monarchy is this. Unfortunately, it is not just Trump running this country. He has other people he answers to. So when he had placed a huge tariff on China earlier last year in April, it was to get the rights to, I think it was, I forgot which one of these canals it was or whatever. And they say to give it to America. No, it was to give it to BlackRock or whatever. So we went to like this trade war with China against C.K. Hutchinson and all of that. It was for the corporations. It wasn't for us, okay? It wasn't for the American people. And that's what pisses me off. It's like there's a lot of power here, but the power gets wielded for the corporations. Like we literally went into Venezuela and took out Maduro and everything and opened up all kinds of deals and everything. It's going to be for the corporations. It's not for American people. It's not going to help you in any kind of way. And that's my issue. But even if I have an issue with it, it doesn't change the dynamics and how things can move and how things can get done. So all of that emotional stuff that Abby Phillips keeps doing, she needs to really chill. Like sometimes she is annoying.